This October we're expecting Apple to release 4 new iPhone models, 2 iPhone 12s and 2 iPhone 12 Pros. And I think the 12 Pro Max is going to be the ultimate YouTube tool. In this video I'll explain exactly why, from shoot to edit to publish to promote. Because I've been doing this for nearly a month and therefore I know exactly what I'm talking about.
This is Living on iPad with David Eden Sangwell.
I'm David for Living on iPad, and I simplify Apple so everything just works for you. So if you want the latest Apple news, rumours and leaks every weekday at 12 UTC, hit like, subscribe and ring my bell. Hey guys, a quick interlude. I know you are watching here for tech, however, this month is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I just wanted to kind of give them a shout out. There's going to be a link if you want to donate in the description. The reason that I'm shouting this out is my son, who is 3, is undergoing leukemia treatment, so it's kind of close to my heart, as you can probably imagine. So if you can, help out in the description. If you can't, that's all cool, but please just let people know about it. Thanks. First up, the cameras. iPhones have always had pretty awesome cameras. When I say always, I mean kind of since iPhone 7-ish. iPhone 7 Plus, which was what they called the bigger iPhones back in the day, not Max, was the first one to include portrait mode photography. Portrait mode is that beautiful blurry background that you get, and Apple uses computational photography to essentially give a background with a bokeh effect as if you used a shallow depth of focus camera. In the past couple of years though, Apple has taken its cameras to massively higher levels. iPhone 7 Plus was the first one to get multiple cameras, which is how it allowed it to give that depth effect. When they moved on to the iPhone 10, that brought true depth to the front-facing cameras for Face ID, which meant you could also get portrait selfies with that beautiful blurry portrait background. With iPhone 12, however, adding the LiDAR sensor is going to take it to a whole new level. In terms of what cameras we are expected to see on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, we're looking at a 12 megapixel standard wide angle. We'll be looking at a 12 megapixel telephoto and a 12 megapixel wide angle, probably with larger sensors than the previous year, because that tends to be Apple's way, is always to incrementally increase the size of the sensors without normally increasing the megapixel count. The reason that Apple increases the size of the sensors without increasing the amount of pixels means that each pixel itself becomes larger. That means each pixel is capturing more photons of light coming into the sensor. That means you get less randomized noise between each pixel based on the amount of photons that are hitting that particular pixel. The bigger each one is, the closer it will be to an accurate average of the amount of light coming in. Apple also offers 4K at 60 frames per second in the iPhone cameras, and it's all 3 of those lenses that can do it. Because remember, with the iPhone, this is not like a normal camera where multiple lenses would use the same sensor. This is 3 separate lenses built over 3 separate sensors. All of them are capable of 4K at 60 frames per second, including the selfie camera. Coming with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, however, and the iPhone 12 Pro, we're looking at having the ability to shoot 4K at up to 120 or 240 frames per second. Now my best guess is that the 240 frames per second will be only using the high efficiency codecs, the HEIC codecs, whereas the 120 frames per second 4K will be using standard, more compatible codecs. The selfie camera can also, at the moment in the iPhone 11 Pros, can currently do slowfies, which is slow-mo video at 1080p at 120 frames per second. That's on the selfie camera, so you can get really buttery smooth shots. The slow motion is more useful to have in the rear camera sensors, because you're normally going to be doing kind of B-roll stuff with that, and stuff that's going to be in the background, stuff that you're going to cut into your videos, especially for YouTube creators. But having those 120 frames per second selfies gives you the opportunity to go slow-mo on, they always use the kind of shampoo commercial hair as an example, but it will give you the opportunity to do just real slow motion of stuff that you need to be able to frame up. So perhaps you want to, like myself, if you can throw bottles around your head, or you can juggle, or anything like that, where you want to make sure that you're filming yourself and you're all in frame, this is going to be awesome, especially for people that use TikTok or Instagram Reels as well as YouTube. As we mentioned earlier, the LiDAR sensor is coming to the iPhone 12 Pro Max as well. It may be coming to the iPhone 12 Pro. As far as everyone knew, and up until just very recently, the iPhone 12 Pro and the Pro Max would be getting exactly the same features, but just with a different size display. However, the latest rumours do seem to indicate that the iPhone 12 Pro Max might be the only one getting the fastest 5G, it might be the only one getting the LiDAR sensor, which would be really odd, but who knows? We don't. I assume it's coming to both, but it could just be in the Pro Max. What that LiDAR sensor will enable, according to some of the leaked images that we've seen and some of the leaked screenshots from the test hardware, being able to focus far faster for video and for photography with those rear-facing cameras, because the LiDAR sensor will essentially create a depth map of everything in front of the phone, and it will know how far everything is away. That means that focus can be lightning fast. It also means that the cameras will be able to isolate different layers within the scene, and because of that, 3D imagery and true depth imagery will be much easier to create using that camera. That means I'm pretty confident we will be seeing video with that portrait soft background in the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Bringing that level of true depth video to the iPhone, which may be the branding that they use, will be an absolute game changer, because it almost eliminates the need for the bigger cameras that a lot of YouTubers use, and that especially that a lot of YouTubers think they need when they're first starting out. I happen to be filming this video on a Lumix G7. The main reason that I use this is, number one, it's a little bit better in low light than my iPhone XS, but it's also something that I can keep on a mount in my office with my microphones attached, with my lights attached to it, and I know what my shot's going to look like every time. But for the vast majority of people, especially when they're starting out on something like YouTube and they don't necessarily have a background in videography like I don't, and if you take a look at some of my earlier videos on this channel, you will see how horrendous I managed to make them. The iPhone is a brilliant platform for creating videos, especially for the internet, because it basically does everything for you. My iPhone XS is fine in the dark, and it actually grabs out more light than I can see with my eyes. The iPhone 11 series has been incredible in the dark, and I can only imagine that the iPhone 12 Pro Max is going to be even better. That larger sensor in each of those cameras is going to make a big difference, but also Apple's computational photography that they use to improve everything that you get out of the camera. Now, as I say, most people that want to first start on YouTube probably don't have a huge amount of background in photography, but if you do and you have a background in videography and photography and you do want to have that fine detail control, the iPhone will still allow you to do that. If you use an app, something like Filmic Pro, which is the one that I use, if I want to do any video that's a little bit more detailed, a little bit more controlled than normal selfie video. Filmic Pro allows you to control your exposure point, your focal point, individually, so you can set one to static, so you can set your exposure to stay exactly the same, so that even if your lighting in the scene changes, your phone won't be kind of hunting for that exposure point. You can do exactly the same with focus. So if you know that your subject is going to be staying still, you're able to keep your focus there and allow the exposure to be automated. There are also add-ons that you can add to the app to shoot in log profiles, if that's something that you're interested in, which is a bit more cinematic. It gives you a lot more color depth. If you put it straight out from the camera, it will look terrible, but if you add a LUT to it, a lookup table, then you will be able to color correct it. You've got way more information in that image than you would have in any other shot. So if you know what you're doing with color correction, if you know what you're doing with focus, with exposure, with everything else, use Filmic Pro or an app similar to that, and you will get far better results from what you're doing. So even the microphones have got much better on the iPhones in the previous few years, and again, we can only expect this to improve. Apple has released its studio quality microphones in the iPad Pros and in its latest iMacs, and I would expect that the iPhone's cameras are going to improve in line with that. However, if you want to get external sound, which most people will if they want to have, again, more control over what's going on, potentially have audio coming from sources other than what's being held on your tripod, then the iPhone is great for that too. You can grab a microphone like this Boya Lavalier mic, which will plug in using a headphone dongle into your lightning port. This costs about 20 quid. The dongle, I believe, is 9, so for under £30 you have got what I think sounds pretty good as a microphone, at least as a starting point. And if you know what you're doing with equalizations, which again I don't, you are able to make it sound even better in post. Your other options are something like this up here. This is the Rode video mic. That works as my backup microphone in case there's any issues with the sound coming directly out of the camera, and that just makes my life a lot easier knowing that regardless of what happens, I've got a backup of my audio and I can see my video recording on the screen. Editing on iPhone 12 Pro Max. Okay, so you've shot your video and now you need to turn all of this raw footage into a video that someone might want to watch on YouTube. Where do you start? Obviously you're going to need to use a piece of editing software, and with the iPhone 12 Pro Max you are going to have enough space on your screen to actually get some real work done in this case. Now, I use a program called LumaFusion, which is for iPad and for iPhone. It is a fantastic bit of kit. You don't need to go straight up to that, which is about £20 app. Again, absolute bargain if you are doing any level of editing on a regular basis. But you can get started straight away with something like iMovie on the iPhone. It doesn't give you a huge amount of control, but you can have multiple tracks. You can do cuts, you can do some interesting cuts, you can add some audio, you can add some titles. So you can do all of the basics on iMovie for free with your iPhone 12 Pro Max. But if you want to take a step up to something like LumaFusion or Adobe Rush, LumaFusion is the one that I would go for. It includes all of the presets that you will need for all of your social media platforms, so when you come to promoting your video, it is very simple to get into that position. It gives you a multi-track editor, it gives you a lot of the fine controls. You can add in LUTs, you can add in manual color grading if that's what you need to do. You can do Ken Burns effects, you can do pretty much a huge amount of what you can do with Final Cut Pro that people would use on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you're making a full motion picture that you would need to use all of the power of Final Cut Pro or something like that, it might not be quite enough. However, even if you're editing 4K videos that you've shot on your iPhone, it's going to do the job. But also remember, because we have Apple Silicon coming to the Macs, Apple has rewritten Final Cut Pro to run on ARM processors, to run on the Apple Silicon that already powers iPhones and iPads. So I would not be surprised, I don't know if it's going to be this fall or if it's going to be next year at WWDC, but I will not be surprised at all when Final Cut Pro comes to iOS and iPadOS. That will give an absolute another level of editing performance. I am going to be checking out hopefully some new editing apps very soon, so if you're interested in seeing that, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss it. But I think Final Cut Pro is just going to be like the gold standard as soon as it arrives on iPhone and iPad. So here's another thing that a regular camera can't do that your iPhone 12 Pro Max will be able to do: actually publishing these videos to YouTube. Now, there are a few things that YouTubers love to use on Chrome, which definitely works better on a desktop than it does on your iPhone or on your iPad. Things like vidIQ or TubeBuddy, any of those plugins for Chrome that will help you to optimize your tags and optimize your titles and make sure you've got the right thumbnails and kind of just give you a checklist to make sure that you're doing everything right. You can make up a checklist yourself, of course, using your iPhone in something like Notes or using the Reminders app for when to schedule your videos, things like that. But when it actually comes to publishing, you can do thumbnails on your phone using an app like Pixelmator. You are able to make really great thumbnails for your videos. I've done several of the video thumbnails on our channel using Pixelmator, and to be completely honest, I can't look through our thumbnails and tell which ones were done on Photoshop on the Mac and which ones were done on my iPhone on the fly. Of course, you can also use free apps like Canva, or you can even use Instagram stories to build a thumbnail. You can add your text using that, you can add the text block backgrounds, and then all you do is hold your phone landscape, make sure all of your text is the right way around, and save it to your phone. You can use that as a decent thumbnail for a video on YouTube. And then when it comes to adding your tags, your descriptions, all that sort of thing, the YouTube Studio app is great. You can get into all of your analytics, you can look at a huge amount of, not quite as much I don't think as on the desktop version of YouTube, but I think you can probably pull up the Studio page on your iPhone in Safari if you need to. But as with videos like this, I tend to write my script or my show notes or whatever it is that I'm going to be working from. It's not a script as such. I kind of write out as if I was doing a script, and then I use it as notes and kind of riff on it. But you can write all of that out in just the Notes app, and then it's ready in a clean format that you can copy and paste into your YouTube video description. You can use as a blog post, you can use as show notes if you are stripping the audio out to turn it into a podcast. There is so much that you can do just using your phone, and I think a lot of people are now getting almost as quick at typing on a phone keyboard as they are on a desktop. And promotion, so yet again something that you can't do with a regular camera that you can do with your iPhone is once you've shot, edited and posted your video from your iPhone, you can take that video link, you can share it across your social media, you can cut it up into smaller clips using the basic Photos app that's on your phone, or if you want to do something a little bit funkier, you want to give it the kind of meme look with bars above and below and that square aspect ratio, you can do that in LumaFusion using an image that you've created over in Pixelmator. And these little clips are wonderful for promoting your channel and getting more eyes over to your channel. You can use some of those great little clips to bring people to see the whole video. You can also use Pixelmator to create quote graphics. You can shoot a quick selfie on your phone using that selfie portrait mode. Take out your background entirely so it doesn't even matter. You can be sitting on the toilet making these photos. Take that picture, make sure that you're sort of framed to the side a little bit, leave yourself some space within the square, throw that image over to Pixelmator or wherever you're going to add your text to it, add a quote from the video, chuck a link in the description, get more people, get more eyes onto your videos, and get more subscriptions. Now this is something that I'm going to be working more on. It's something that I've not done as much as I wanted to. Really want to start really pushing to bring more people over to the channel. And if you enjoy these videos and if you get some value from them, I would love that subscription, but I would also love it if you would share it with people that you think would benefit. If you've got a friend that is thinking about getting into YouTube or is currently using an older iPhone and is probably ready for an upgrade and might enjoy making videos, send them a link to this video. It would be really helpful to me and the channel to get a few more eyes on it. And the fact that you can do that from the iPhone that you're literally watching this on now, because I'm almost certain that the vast majority of people watching this video right now are watching it on an iPhone, aren't you, Kevin? I've just really freaked Kevin out, but I am just talking to you, Kevin. But Kevin aside, all of the stuff that you can do to promote your videos and your channel and your personal brand, even if you are going down that route, through using an iPhone is a massive advantage. And the iPhone 12 Pro Max just looks like it's going to be the ultimate machine for this. If we can get those soft, beautiful backgrounds in our videos using the portrait video mode using LiDAR, if we can get beautiful actual selfie mode that's nicely stabilized, that would be a massive boon. I really think stabilization on that selfie camera is going to be something that Apple is working on. We already know that they've actually been working on a version of FaceTime where it automatically adjusts your eyes to be looking directly at the person on the other side instead of looking at the screen where they are. If they could bring that technology so that anyone that's filming a selfie and looking at themselves on the display, it adjusts it so you're looking into the lens, that would be an absolute game changer. Casey Neistat would finally be able to throw away his sunglasses. That's one of those things that I will now make into a quote to go onto Instagram to bring people back to this video. So if you found this video because of that quote on Instagram, please let me know in the comments, because I think that would be really fun for some people to see. But what do you think? Is it practical to make all of your videos from start to finish just on an iPhone. Can you do it? I'd be really interested. I want to do some of this. I've done a little bit on an iPad before. However, I've only got older iPads. I don't have any of the Pros. I might be living on iPad, and that is what this channel originally started about. It's become everything Apple, let's be honest. But I've made some videos that I've purely done on iPad. I've shot it on the iPad, I've then edited it on the iPad, published it from the iPad, and promoted it from my iPad. But because I'm using older iPads that have kind of janky cameras, this is the 2017 5th gen, which I also use for gaming videos and stuff like that. It's not by any means a bad device, however, the video on it, a little bit janky. But using a couple of iPads, I've been able to use that Filmic app that I mentioned, so that I was able to film with the good camera on here and use the other iPad as a remote. So I was using that as a monitor and also to adjust all of the settings as I needed. That made a big difference. So you can do these things. If I had a more modern iPad, maybe if I had the iPad Pro, which has got that multi-camera array and, you know, a LiDAR sensor in there, that would have been super helpful for me. But what do you think? Can you do it all on one thing? Have you ever done any videos where you've literally shot it, edited it, and published it from your iPhone? I have with the iPad. I haven't with an iPhone yet. Probably, maybe have. But yeah, let me know in the comments. I would love to get a subscription from you guys if you've enjoyed this video. Hit the thumbs up button and I will see you on the next one. We do Apple news daily in the week at 12 UTC. See you in the next video.